Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
I'm Sonia Farrell and this is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythm City Radio and Baba Baboon. This week we're doing something a little bit different. We're talking about law and we've got Goddard Dunbar and Associates in the studio. We haven't got one member, we haven't got two members of the team. We've got a trio. We've got Paul Finn, director, Hannah Stazakar, if I've said that correct, and Kennedy Thursfield, all from Goddard Dunbar and Associates. Hello.
Hello.
How are we?
Good, thank you. Thank you for inviting us over.
Yeah, good. Now, I have actually just missed one important team member there who's keeping very, very quiet here in the studio, and that's Jack the dog. Can somebody just explain, before we go anywhere, who Jack is?
Yes, so Jack is our company mascot. He's been with the company for about 7 or 8 years. He just takes the edge off a stereotypical law firm. He brings the friendly side to the company, and every time we go out, we're referred to as the law firm, with the Jack the dog, and he just gives us that friendly feel and makes us approachable as well, because we feel like that's very important, to be approachable in this industry. Yeah,
definitely. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you've also just celebrated another anniversary. Is it 12 years now for Goddard Dunbar?
It is. Yes, 2 years ago it was our 10 year, so we will be coming up to 12 years in business. Yes.
And how do you feel about that? Is there any other big celebrations coming on?
Well, it's a big achievement as well, because as you say, apart from that, we started off just 2 or 3 members of staff, and we're now getting up to close to 60 members of staff. And then most of those are all employed from the local community as well. So as well as the business growing, it just creates jobs there for people as well. So it's a big benefit for all those staff.
And is that in one office space then, or is that across 2 offices?
The main office is at the Genesis Centre, at close to Tunstall.
Yeah.
But we started off, the original office is over at the Crew. So it's a small office there, but that was the original office. So we sort of kept that on and still see clients there and do a lot of the work there. But the main base now is the Genesis Centre, down to numbers. There's just so many of us now. Everybody wants to join Goddard Dunbar, and we do such a good job that we just need bigger premises to work from, and that's just worked well for us.
It's interesting, just to pick up on that, Paul, you mentioned that most of the staff as well are from the local area.
Yeah.
Now, how important, if you don't mind me asking, do you see that, especially, Stoke-on-Trent and surrounding areas, how important do you see that for a company in this area?
Well, I think it is important because it's always good to support your local area as well. So when we advertise for jobs, the amount of local people applying for those jobs. So I think it means a lot to us to support the local community through jobs, and also with some of the charity work that we do as well.
And do those jobs as well, do you get a lot of, new graduates, that have just come out of university?
Yeah, we do. We have staff on all levels. And interestingly, yesterday we had a big actual staff anniversary in the office. So our 2 original apprentices, Natasha and Danny, they had their 10-year anniversary with the firm. So we offer positions from apprentice level right up to solicitor level. There's a place for anybody that wants to come and learn and progress and get stuck in. So Danny's now a qualified licensed conveyancer. She's worked her way all the way up, and Tasha's working her way up for a solicitor's qualification. So they've done immensely well. And it's not just about offering jobs and supporting the staff in the workplace. It's such a privilege to watch them in their personal lives as well. The young staff coming in, being able to learn to drive and afford driving lessons, and then they buy a house, and then they have families. It's all part of it.
I mean, to say that, there's something there for, apprentices who've come through and celebrating 10 years at the company.
Yeah.
That's got to be something to do with the culture within the organisation, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. We're big on business culture. Something that you have to work hard at. It doesn't just happen. We had some business culture training, some specialised training a few years ago. And because we've got so big, we're just going through the process of refreshing that. So everyone knows what it is, what is the Goddard Dunbar way. So we have a set of rules, if you like, that we all follow. They're called our guiding principles. They can be about trust and respect. It can be about communication. One of them is about having fun. So we all try to follow those principles, in our daily working life. And it does make it a special environment to work in. I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Definitely, in any environment when it's fun,
Yeah.
whether it's in the workplace, whether you're running your own business, I do believe it has to be fun.
Yeah.
I do like the fun element that you've got going on here with Jack, the mascot as well. But with what you do and the work that you do, whether it's supporting a business or an individual, it has got quite a serious element. It's law, basically, it's law. Now, that can affect people in various different ways, I'm pretty sure, and again, whether it's business or personally. And one of the things I was going to ask you about here on Business Spotlight, because we've had quite a few different, property agents in, and we've talked about buying and selling houses, but we've never actually gone into the actual property law. So just start from the basics again. What do people need to be aware of when they are looking to invest in a property?
I think my go-to phrase when I'm acting for somebody buying a house, and it could be an excited first-time buyer that's buying their first property. It could be a family that are sort of up buying to have more rooms, more bedrooms, or it could be a couple that are retiring and want to move into a bungalow. Whatever stage in their property journey they're in, and it might sound a little bit silly, I always say to my clients, you're not buying a pair of shoes. You can't just give them back. They're not just a quick £50 here and a quick £50 there. It's the biggest purchase that you'll ever make. It's your life savings. It's all that hard work that you've put in. It's your wages coming in and going out. So it has to be invested wisely. And while sometimes the focus is on moving as quickly as you can, sometimes that's not the right thing to do. And actually taking your time, doing your research on the property, having a survey done so you know exactly what you're getting into, having your searches done, doing all that research and background knowledge, that usually is a lot more important than moving quicker. Once you've bought that house, you're stuck with it. And one of the property principles is buyer beware. The onus is on the buyer to make sure that they are happy with what they're buying. So go and do your research, go and talk to the neighbours, listen to the advice from your solicitor about the coal mining report and, the questionnaires that are filled in. They're there to help you, they're there to guide you, because in likelihood, in the future, you're going to be selling that property on at some point. You want to know you've made a good investment. You need to know that you are going to be able to sell on so you can move on to the next part of your journey. So there's lots to consider. So it's not a matter of speed. It's a matter of research and really getting to know what you're buying. Because like I say, you're not buying a pair of shoes and you can't just take them back and get an exchange.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know how you find, but just something to mention there. Like my brother at the moment, he's 31, and him and his partner are looking to get on the property ladder, and they're looking at various different properties, and they want it now.
Yeah.
So what you're saying there is actually quite interesting as well, to hear how you sort of say, no, just take your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what reception do you get when you come across, whether it's the likes of my brother, who I might introduce you to, on how to go about this approach?
Yeah. It can be hard to manage client expectations sometimes, and at the end of the day, you have a solicitor to help you. It's your hard-earned money that you're spending, and yes, everyone gets really excited, or we have a lot of ladies that are pregnant and need to move before the delivery of the baby, or Christmas is coming and everyone wants to be in their house. That's absolutely fine, and we will always accommodate people where we can, if we can. But ultimately, you're paying for our advice, and our advice is make sure it's the right property for you. And sometimes it can take a little bit of time to do that research, to get all the advice in, to get information from the seller solicitors, and other third parties, your surveyor, your mortgage lender. That is paramount, because once you've bought that property, you have to live there. You're going to have to be happy in that property. And if it takes an extra couple of weeks, in the whole scheme of things, does that actually matter? It's best to get it right than move in and think, oh, I wish I'd looked into this a bit more, and sort of have those regrets, I suppose.
And does the same approach sort of, is it the same for a business? Is it the same for somebody who's buying commercially?
Yeah, I suppose from the commercial aspect, there's different deadlines. So there might be a commercial deadline coming that they need to be on site for. But again, it is the same principle. It's best to be safe than sorry. Take your time, do your research, and listen to your solicitor's advice, because we're here to help. That's what we're here for.
And then is there any sort of, barriers that people might be aware of, whether it's a first-time buyer or somebody even in business who's looking to buy their first building? Is there things that they really need to be aware of, though?
I think the main thing is it's teamwork. It's not just listening to your solicitor and the advice of your solicitor. It's get a survey done, listen to what your surveyor's saying. Your mortgage lender, is the mortgage product right? It's not just about you go to a solicitor and buy a property. There's loads of other businesses involved in helping you do that. And I think really it's just listening to everybody and thinking to yourself, is this going to be right for me? Is this the right business move for me? And taking all that on board. That can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of information being provided to you, especially if you're a first-time buyer or your first business property. It can be very overwhelming, but that's where we come in. We're here to hold your hand if that's what you want us to do. We pride ourselves on giving a really good service, and that can be the clients coming into the office, have a cup of tea together, sit and go through everything face-to-face. We can do it by email, we can do it by video call, whatever works for the client to make them feel comfortable. We do our best to accommodate that.
And leading on from that, Paul, I'm just going to bring you in here. Leading on from that, again, whether it's somebody, personally, or whether it's a director of a business, if you're looking and keeping all those other things in check, whether it's property, etc., or all the other legal affairs. But another thing which it keeps cropping up more and more, and I keep coming across as well, is something by the name of wills. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand wills. I know what they are. But I wanted to ask you, how important, really, do you think that they are now in 2024 and in going forward?
Yeah, well, I think they've always been important to have. But as you say, just following on from what Hannah was just explaining there, for people owning a house, I think you should have a will anyway, regardless. But having a house, for a lot of people, is their main asset. Mm. And you want to say, well, if something happens to me, where does that property go, or other assets? So that's why it's important to have a will there, because then you're saying what you want to happen to your money or to your property or even to your pets. So some people say, well, I haven't got anything, but they might have a pet cat or a pet dog, or who knows, they could have a inheritance might come their way, or they could win money on a lottery. So it's good to have the will in place to say, if something happens to me, these people are in charge of sorting everything out, and this is where I would like my house or money or cat or dog to go to. So that's why it's always important to have a will.
Yeah, and again, you don't have to go into any detail at all, but is there any example that you've experienced over the years where perhaps someone didn't have a will or firmly in place and it's ended up quite in a messy situation? Yeah,
it can happen. Sadly it does. Some people, you'll find people haven't married, they've lived together, they've cohabited, and they sometimes will think that if something happens to one, their assets will pass to the other party because they've lived together for so long. You still hear occasionally people talking about common law marriage or common law spouse because they've lived together for so long that they almost think they're married, whereas legally it has no meaning at all. It's just a term that they sort of just use because they lived together for so long. So we've had cases, we've dealt with estates where people have passed away and the partner's expected to inherit, but they haven't had a will in place. So it's the intestacy rules then come into place.
Right.
So it could the person who's passed away could end up going to children or estranged children. Some people have separated but not divorced. So we've had ones where people have been separated 10 years and it's gone off to the spouse. So that's why it's always worth talking to a solicitor about your circumstances, because whatever your circumstances are, you'll still always find it's better to have a will in place because it's your wishes that are then recorded and signed off by you.
And does it matter? I always remember, I suppose, over the years and growing up, wills were more for people who were a bit older,
Yeah.
Do you find that now, or is it completely different now with people who are actually taking out a will?
I think people are doing them a little bit younger now as well, but I think you're right with what you say. I think people thought when you get to a certain age, because you might own a house then, you might have children then, you might have accumulated more possessions and money, so you always think as you get older, that's when you need to put wills in place. But I think certainly younger people, I think people are buying houses at a younger age as well. Yeah. And people do think about their animals and pets. As people say, well, I haven't really got much, but it means a lot to someone. What happens to me? What happens to my cat or a horse? One person about the horse. So, or the hamster. People talk about all sorts of pets. I want to say what happens to them? Who's going to look after them?
So it's more of that awareness and, like you're saying, thinking, thinking ahead.
And people thinking, well, I don't need one because, I haven't got a house or I haven't got much money. But as I say, it covers all of their personal circumstances.
And is it a difficult process to go through, or is it quite easy to actually set up a will?
I think it's all down to the individual as well. Wills can be as simple or as complicated as the person's circumstances or as they want to make them. And most wills we do, I'd say, are fairly straightforward. We try and make the process as easy as possible. People will just come in and we'll listen to what it is they want to achieve and just go through our fact find. And most times it's quite easy to record their wishes then on paper that they then sign off. But yes, some people have had a lot going on in their lives. They've been married, divorced, married, different children, so they have more to think about. But again, it can all be accommodated within the will.
And then just leading on from wills as well, and there's something that me and my sister have actually gone through this year, is power of attorney.
Yeah.
We've done that for my mum. It's circumstances that we identified and we felt that it was right to do. But can you explain, I know obviously I've gone through the process of a power of attorney, but can you explain the power of attorney as well? Because I think it's really important.
Yeah, following on, sometimes people do confuse them with the will as well. When they make a will, they think, well, I've named executors so they can look after everything. But of course, the will only comes into effect on death. The power of attorney is the document for while you're alive. And the idea there is you name, mostly it's family, you name your attorneys. So they're the people you want to be able to look after your money or property in the event that you were to lose capacity. So you can do a power of attorney for finance and a power of attorney for health. So one, as it says, is for property and finance. The other one's to deal with health conditions. And the idea, again, is you put something in place. You name those people that you want to look after your affairs and interests should a time come when you're unable to do that yourself. So that's what the power of attorney is. And some people say, do I need to do one again? I haven't got much, or it might cost a couple of £100. And it could be that it's a bit like insurance. People will insure their house and their car every year. They're paying out money every year to do that. And a power of attorney is a bit like insuring yourself. So if something happens to you, who's going to look after that for you? And it's just one-off. Once it's done, it's done. It could be filed away. It might never be used. Might never be needed. But it's just that peace of mind that it's there should a time come when it is needed.
And for somebody, like myself and my sister, we've done the power of attorney. But can you just explain what that means to someone like me who's actually taken that out? Or what responsibilities, if somebody is thinking, do I want to do this? Do I need to do this?
Yeah. As I say, it's important to have. For the person who's acting as the attorney, then they've got to be agreeable to take that role on. So it's always good to have that family discussion. So most times if it's parents, they'll have down their grown-up children. Sometimes we see people who haven't got children, so it might be nephews and nieces or siblings. Some people rely on a very close friend or neighbour. But it is something you have to give a lot of thought to, because as you say, you're giving powers to that person. So you've got to be sure that person is somebody you know well and you trust, and is capable as well to carry out those responsibilities, those duties.
Definitely. And just one more thing I'm just going to put to you again, really, Paul, is with law, And again, I know bits and come across different people who I speak to. You're the expert, but law changes so quickly. How is it, or what do you see for the future? And how can people just keep up to date with these, whether it's property law or looking at wills, looking at attorneys, whether it's conveyancing, how can people be on top of things?
I mean, a good thing is, because we always offer anyway, at Goddard Dunbar, we always give out that free advice and guidance to clients. So we always say to people, if their circumstances change, they can come back to us. And we don't charge for people to come in to have initial meetings. We're always very welcoming to people and helpful. And we say, you can come in, you can ring up, you can ask questions, and we'll sort of guide them and update them on what the latest law is. But other than that, people have to just do their own bit of research online. So some people will get sort of information, see what updates there are when budgets are done and news is announced. But we always say better just come back in, give us a call, come in and see us. We don't charge for seeing you. We don't charge for answering questions. And that's always the best way then, because people will come in and say, well, I've heard this or I've heard that. And very often they've heard things incorrectly, or they've misunderstood what they've heard, or somebody who's told them who thinks they know. So, or they've heard something in the pub, something such told me this, but that person doesn't really know themselves, or they've heard it wrongly. So we just say, come on in. Always happy to sit down, chat to them and answer their questions. And if they need any work doing, fine. If they don't, if they just need that reassurance, peace of mind, and that's all part of the service as well.
And Kennedy, I'm going to come back to you now, just before we go, because we're sitting here talking about some quite serious topics. And from the start of the interview, I got the impression straight away that you're not, you are serious, obviously, in all the services that you do, but you've got this culture where you like to have fun. Yeah. And I know that because we've got a dog in the studio called Jack. We've got a mascot sitting here looking at me while I'm trying to speak to Paul and Hannah about some serious topics. Yeah. But in all honesty, though, Kennedy, the community seems quite a real important, one of your values at Goddard Dunbar and Associates. It seems like it's something which is very important within the organisation. And I know you deal a little bit with the marketing, and that's what you do, and you get out to the community and charity work. So I just want to ask you if you can just briefly explain why the community is so important to an organisation, and a little bit more about what you do for charities.
Yes, of course. So we're on a mission to fight world hunger. So we do this by giving to local food banks. We do it in Stoke-on-Trent and Crewe, just go out that further field, just to help the local community, because obviously we are Stoke-on-Trent based and we see, the poverty that is in our community, unfortunately. So we try and get out as much as possible and donate to these food banks. But then we're also wanting to go that step further and target globally as well. So we actually work with Mary's Meals, who is a charity who we sponsor a school through in Malawi called Katiti 2 school, and we help feed 510 children in the school who were enrolled in the school. Mary's Meals help feed 2 million children a school day with brine from the local farmers. So we absolutely love helping the local community and globally as well, and it means a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And just one more thing to ask you as well, Kennedy. How long have you been at the firm for?
2 years.
2 years. And
yes.
You're originally from this area?
Yes.
So when we talked about at the beginning of the interview as well about how important it is to support, local younger people coming through, especially in an organisation, a law firm. Yeah. How, from your point of view, how do you feel about that, to be working with a local organisation in your home city that are doing great things? Yeah,
it's such a I get such a feel good factor from it, coming into work and then going on Monday morning when everybody else, is like, oh, it's Monday, I'm going out and helping, a local food bank. It's such a feel good factor, and I'm so lucky to be with Goddard Dunbar, who are in the position to, help. So I really, really take a joy from it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kennedy, Hannah and Paul. Thank you for coming into the studio.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
for
been a
having
pleasure.
us.
And
Anytime.
Jack, of course.
Yes.
That's Kennedy, Hannah and Paul from Goddard Dunbar and Associates here on Business Spotlight with me, Sonia Farrell.
Business Spotlight. Shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.